When you look back now, what are some of the best decisions you've ever made in your life?
Getting married to Catherine is one. Don't like that one. Two, being authentic. My path here is not very traditional at all. As a consultant, not very traditional. I was one of the few that did not aspire to be a partner. I just wanted to do work. Yeah, I just feel sales and the target, the stress of it. I liked working with senior partners, like amazing consultants, and I had the opportunity to do that. But I just really like doing good work, and that's kind of who I was. It's like, I'm not chasing something that I don't want. It's not who I am. And even as an independent, I did work that a lot of the big firms didn't want to do because there was no money at it. Like, I didn't make a lot of money doing, go figure, vulnerable seniors, like this is 15 years ago, mental health and addictions, housing, like nobody cared about it. That's not true. There are a lot of people that cared about it. A lot of consulting firms didn't want to go there because there's not a lot of money. So I would just, hey, look, here's my daily rates, nothing. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and learn. And it's kind of that lost leader approach. And so being authentic in that way is, these are the things that interest me. I can make a living wage out of it, which was a bonus, but that's not why I went into it. I went into it because I was interested and I wanted to see if I could make a difference. And so that authenticity has carried us through to me rolling up my sleeves, working the COVID unit, working side by side, and then parlaying it into a larger scale role at St. Joe's. And I think the third thing, it's not a decision, is the ability to flex in, flex out. So I can work that corporate consulting world. I can do the business lunch. By the way, you should do a podcast on the art of a business lunch or the art of a business cocktail. We haven't done cocktails, lunches in a year. And even then, before then, because of corporate expenses, budgets get cut, no one's doing that anymore. It's a lost art, but it's a way of developing relationships. So you're selling, like in consulting, you're selling, but you're not really selling. You're actually trying to get to know the person so you can find a soft sell approach. Right. Hopefully by the end of lunch, but if not, it's a follow-up kind of thing. So adapting to the situation, to the role, and taking the best out of it. So I took the best out of the corporate consulting life. I did it for a total of 17 years. And now in the not-for-profit sector for 7, 8 years. Like it's actually catching up with me now. I think the best example is, one of our vendors took us to, Catherine and I, to the Rogers Cup. It's tennis. I'm not a tennis fan. I don't know anything about tennis. I don't want to go. But I know this is important from a relationship standpoint. So we go. And what my wife didn't know was I had spent the 2 weeks leading up to that studying tennis. Wow. Studying the seeding of who was playing that night, their track record, their strengths, watching YouTube videos of their interviews. So in 2 weeks, I knew every single player who was playing that night. Knowing that my host was a big tennis fan. And as a result, I'm talking to him, and Catherine knows I know nothing about tennis, but
she's impressed.
Who are you? Like, the example of preparedness, of flexing in, flexing out. So once that, actually, it's been a very productive business relationship. Not because of that, but I think that was a way of me showing that vendor that, hey, I care enough to get to know you. And I think that flexibility is a key leadership skill that's often overlooked. And it's not being, this is my brand and everyone knows me for this. Well, everyone knows me for this now. I tell you, everyone's going to forget that I rolled up my sleeves and worked the COVID unit in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Okay, so the brand all of a sudden changes. What are you going to be known for next? Like, what are you going to do so that I get reinvited to another podcast that we can talk about something completely different? And that's how, being flexible in your leadership style and your approach allows you to redefine who you are. And if you keep redefining who you are in a growth mindset, I think you become a better person. If you become a better person, you're happier, and the people around you also feel that. So it's kind of a interesting philosophical discussion about mindset, self-improvement, leadership, and really adapting to different situations, being very dynamic. Well, since then, I've gone to the Rogers Cup every year since. I would love to go to one of the Grand Slams. Like I just love it now. So there's a positive outcome to this. It wasn't wasted. It's a kind of a, lean in. If you're gonna lean in, lean in.
Lean in, yeah.
Really lean in.
Yeah. And also a lot of the times I think we're hesitant to try something new, but when we try it, we end up liking it.
Again, the silver lining of COVID, I mentioned my Run Every Street project. Prior to that, I had 6 fixed routes. I would run these 6 routes all the time. And since the pandemic happened, like I said, I have for the last 11 months or whatever it's been, almost 11 months, I have not run the same route twice. In fact, I try to avoid running the same roads and streets twice because it's inefficient. If you're trying to cover the whole city, you don't want to keep running the same street. And I think now that I'm talking to you, I think it really is because of COVID has really put everything out of kilter. You cannot deal with a pandemic with a single mindset. You've got to take what comes, outbreak, positive, false positive, vaccine, rollout, who gets it, when, how do you do it? Like, you got to kind of roll with it. And so I've opened my mind to this. And I think the Run Every Street project has helped me open my mind to these things and like I said, I'm learning new things as I run every single different street. So I've been here 1,000 times in my car and never saw this bakery.
Yeah.
Where did this bakery come from? I got to stop in. So I took my family on the weekend. I said, we're going to this bakery. That's the hike, the family hike. Hiked to the bakery, and it was amazing. It's Au Merveilleux on Queen Street. It's an amazing French bakery. I never knew it existed because I've gone by there and I finally saw it as they were in the early morning, these beautiful croissants ready to be stuck in the oven. I just went, oh my God, what is this place? I gotta come back. And I did, brought my family back.
Yeah, these little gems. And it's such a great point that you're making, because I was reading a book by John Maxwell, How Successful People Think. And he was saying one of those strategies to put into action is actually doing something different every day. So maybe using your non-dominant hand, or so exactly what you were doing. You were trying a new street, and that is building those new neural pathways if you look at the brain. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I may have read the same book. But I do feel, like, it's amazing. I do feel those neural pathways being built physically. Like, there's something, the way to think about, am I supposed to turn right here on this street? Oh, I don't think this was a dead end when I remembered it on the map. Oh, I'm running out of time. I better get home. Like, these things, when I ran my 6 routes, I'm on autopilot. I know it's 56 minutes, this route, go left, go right, same pattern, predictable. And guess what? I got bored. And if it weren't for the pandemic, I'd probably stop running. Like, I just got bored. So in your work life, in your personal lives, is if you have patterns that you've been repeating, maybe it's time to change it up. But in this case, the pandemic was that external event that forced me and others, everyone else, including the listeners, what they do on a daily basis, right? What's the new normal for you? The new normal for leadership, I think, for me, has changed because of the pandemic. If it weren't for the pandemic, you and I wouldn't be speaking. I can guarantee that.
Yes. I want to touch on maybe a low point in your life. We all have our failures or mistakes or things that haven't gone so well in our life. It's not always been smooth sailing. So is there a particular instance in your life that you would like to highlight and talk about, share some lessons that came out of it?
Yeah, there's a couple moments. One early in my career, feeling unvalued. So I think most young people, you start your first job with optimism and hope, and it's like, all right, I'm earning a wage. I can move out of my parents' house. Hooray, freedom. And I think it's the younger generation that want to be recognized. It's a different way of working. I've actually figured it out a little bit. And I wish I was a young person today, because I think I would actually do better than I did when we were, sorry, I'm probably older than you by a bit. Our younger days, it's a little bit different. So I remember feeling completely undervalued, underutilized, and taken for granted. because as you know, as diligent Asians, we kind of do our thing and we don't want credit. We're very humble and you do your job. But at some point, you can only do that for so long as you see your colleagues get promoted. And there's just a sense of competition and jealousy. Good people, well-deserved, but you're stuck in the first gear. Your career's not moving. And that feeling sucks. And I vowed never to feel like that ever again. And so I quit. And I quit with nothing in front of me. In fact, I spent the next 3 weeks playing video games. No kidding. I didn't see a person. It was like pandemic. I locked myself in. I was so depressed. I just played video games. I finished Halo like 3 times on Xbox.
What job was that?
I don't want to say.
But as you're talking, I felt that way too. And that's, when you feel that low, it's like you're willing to do anything to get out of it because you don't want to feel that way.
So I started my own consulting firm out of it.
Okay.
I just needed 3 months. It could have been longer. I think at that time I met Catherine too. So it was kind of like, oh, you see something in me? Because I'm not feeling myself. I'm very low. I think from there, I started my consulting project. I think the other one is, so these are kind of key moments. It's like feeling undervalued, transition. And there's 2 examples there. One is, I want out of this job so bad. How do I do it respectfully? And then more recently, I love my job so much. I don't want to leave, but I know I need to leave, right? So it's kind of that decision point. Should I go or shouldn't I? How do I go? How do I do it respectfully? And I think generally for both, and given my current situation on my new ex-boss, and going into that is, the advice I gave myself was this, is just roll with it. You're going to be given a set of cards. You don't know what they are. Try not to predict what those cards, you're going to waste a lot of emotional energy, which I did in the last week. It's not worth it. You're going to be dealt 3 aces. Maybe it's a 2, a 3, and an 8, and different suits like poker, right? You don't know. You got your 2 cards. You'll see the river, and you play. You bet. You bet on how you're going to do it based on what's in front of you. And it's hard to do. It's easy to do in poker. It's not for a lot of money. I don't gamble, so I play quarters or whatever. But it is hard not to act and to wait for the card to turn over. You want to turn over that card. And I think part of it is to sit back a little bit. I think this is a little bit of my own maturity, because when I was faced with that transition, I took actions in my own hands, and I regretted it a little bit. I was probably an asshole, to be frank, and not very nice. This time around, it's let it come. Let it come. You might want to take a quick peek, but not really, and play the game as the cards come to you. And the cards have come to me in this case, not an easy game to play. It's not a game at all. I'm kind of a little nervous, to be honest. And so it's taking my own advice to heart. And I think that those are some low points. And I think the last one is, you've seen someone you admire that you work with do something unethical. What do? Whistleblower never existed before, right? And this is wrong. And if this person continues doing this behavior, you're going to be sucked along with them. I don't want to get into the details. It was quite a public case, and I wasn't the whistleblower. I wish I was. I sat and watched and did nothing. And I was mid-career, mortgage, right? It's kind of I say something, I'm done. And now, rightly or wrongly, you take a stand. And I'm very adamant about that now. But again, it comes with age, confidence. It depends on the issue. When I first came here, I made it very clear, if there's any sort of untoward activity, we're going to stop it. No questions asked. That's it, right? So I think you just got to call out, and I couldn't do that at the beginning of my career. It takes a lot of courage to do that, and I regret not doing it in the middle of my career. And so now I'm not quite late career, maybe mid to late. But, Mid to late, I've learned some stuff that I probably have the courage to take on now that I didn't before.
And looking back at your journey, is there anything else you would change?
No. No. I'm a no regrets kind of guy. Like some of the things have turned out quite well for me, I think. And so I have to say I've been blessed. I've been fortunate. I've met amazing people like you. Really unlock some things that I wouldn't normally do. So this has been educational for me. I've actually learned a couple of things about myself. So it's always a two-way street. So I think I've been quite fortunate, quite privileged. So no regrets.